Okay, 11:25:20. Yes, my computer give me a little time there to start up. So yeah.
Okay.
While you do the invocation, we could probably get it. 11:25:20. Let me see. My computer give me.
All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So if you're ready, you can start. If not, I can.
Yeah. Okay. 11:25:20, right?
Correct.
11:25. Yeah, I'm ready.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Sarvaj Jagaranam Vidyad Rajasa Swapnam Adishet Prasvapam Tamasa Jantus Turyam Tvitu Santatam. Translation. It should be understood that alert wakefulness comes from the mood of goodness. Sleep with dreaming from the mood of passion, and deep dreamless sleep from the mood of ignorance. The fourth state of consciousness pervades these three and is transcendental. The fourth state of consciousness pervades these three and is transcendental. Purpose. Our original Krishna consciousness exists eternally within the soul, and it is also present in all the three phases of awareness, namely normal wakefulness, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. Being covered by the mood of nature, this spiritual consciousness may not be manifest, but it continues to exist eternally as the real nature of the living entity. Text 21. Upari gachanti sadvena brahmana jnana tamasaduda da'amkyad Rajasantaracharina. Translation. Learned persons dedicated to Vedic culture are elevated by the mood of goodness to higher and higher position. The mood of ignorance, on the other hand, forces one to fall headfirst into lower and lower booths. And by the mood of passion, one continues transmigrating from human body. Purport. Sudras, persons in the mood of ignorance, are generally in deep illusion about the purpose of life, accepting the gross material body as the self. Those in passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas and Hankaras, intensely for wealth, whereas Kshatriyas, who are in the mood of passion, are eager for prestige and power. Those in the mood of goodness, however, hanker after perfect knowledge. They are therefore called Brahmanas. Such a person is promoted up to the supreme material position of Brahmaloka, the planet of Lord Brahma. One who is in the mood of ignorance gradually falls to the level of unmoving species, such as trees and stones, while one in the mood of passion, filled with material desires, but satisfying it with viticulture, is allowed to remain in human society. Text 22. Sadvi pralinaha swayati yanti nara lukam rajuliya diya tamuliastu niranyam yanti mam ibani gunaha. Translation. Those who leave this world in the mood of goodness go to the heavenly planets. Those who pass away in the mood of passion remain in the worlds of human beings. And those dying in the mood of ignorance must go to hell. But those who are free from the influence of all moods of nature come to me. But those who are free from the influence of all moods of nature come to me. Those who transcend the material nature. Okay. Text 23. Mad apanam nispalam va sadvikam nijakamartat rajasam phala sankalpam himsa prayaditam tamasam. Translation. Work performed as an offering to me without consideration of the fruit is considered to be in the mood of goodness. Work performed with a desire to enjoy the result is in the mood of passion. And work impelled by violence and envy is in the mood of ignorance. Purport. Ordinary work performed as an offering to God without desire for the result is understood to be in the mood of goodness, whereas activities of devotion such as chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord are transcendental forms of work beyond the moods of nature.
All right, so you can hold there.
Okay.
741. All right, Lloyd Prabhu, if you're ready, you can go ahead and read from text 24.
No problem. I'm trying to get in. You heard me?
You want me to go ahead, or you want?
No problem. I ain't getting yet.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read, and then after.
Yes, you could read.
Yeah, I'm going to read. All right. So text 24. Kaivalyam satvikam jnanam rajo vaikapikam chayat prakritam tamasam jnanam mam nishtam nirgunam smritam. Absolute knowledge is in the mode of goodness. Knowledge based on duality is in the mode of passion, and foolish materialistic knowledge is in the mode of ignorance. Knowledge based upon me, however, is understood to be transcendental. Purport. The Lord clearly explains here the spiritual knowledge of a Supreme Personality is transcendental to ordinary religious knowledge in the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one understands the existence of a higher spiritual nature within all things. In the mode of passion, one acquires scientific knowledge of the material body. And in the mode of ignorance, one fixes one's mind on the sense objects without higher awareness, perceiving things as a small child or retarded person does. Sri Jiva Goswami elaborately explains in his commentary on this verse that the material mode of goodness does not award perfect knowledge of the Absolute Truth. He quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.14.2, proving that many great demigods in the mode of goodness could not understand the transcendental personality of Lord Krishna. In the material mode of goodness, one becomes pious or religious, aware of a higher spiritual nature. On the spiritual platform of purified goodness, however, one establishes a direct, loving relationship with the Absolute Truth, rendering service to the Lord rather than merely maintaining a connection to mundane piety. In the mode of passion, the conditioned soul speculates about the reality of his own existence and of the world around him, and he considers speculatively the existence of a kingdom of God. In the mode of ignorance, one acquires knowledge for sense gratification, absorbing the mind in varieties of eating, sleeping, defending, and sex without any higher purpose. Thus, within the modes of nature, the conditioned souls are trying to gratify their senses, or else they are trying to free themselves from sense gratification. But they cannot directly engage themselves in their constitutional liberated activities until they come to the transcendental position of Krishna consciousness beyond the modes of nature. Text 25. Svanam tu satviko vaso gramo rajasa uchyate tamasam dyota saranam man niketam tu nirgunam. Residence in the forest is in the mode of goodness. Residence in a town is in the mode of passion. Residence in a gambling house displays the quality of ignorance. And residence in a place where I reside is transcendental. Purport. Many creatures in the forest, such as trees, wild boars, and insects, are actually in the modes of passion and ignorance. But residence in the forest is designated as being in the mode of goodness, because there one may live a solitary life free from sinful activities, material opulence, and passionate ambition. Throughout the history of India, many millions of persons from all walks of life have adopted the orders of Vanaprastha and Sannyas and have gone to the sacred forests to practice austerity and perfect their self-realization. Even in America and other Western countries, persons such as Thoreau achieve fame by retiring to the forest to reduce the scope and opulence of material involvement. The word grama here indicates residence in the village of one's family. Family life is certainly full of false pride, false hopes, false affection, lamentation, and illusion, since the family connection is squarely resting on the bodily concept of life, the very opposite of self-realization. The word Duta Sadhanam, gambling house, refers to pool halls, racetracks, poker clubs, bars, and other sinful places that maintain an abysmal level of consciousness in the mode of ignorance. Mam Niketam refers to the Lord's own abode in the spiritual world, as well as the Lord's temples within this world, wherein the deity form of the Lord is appropriately worshipped. One who lives in the temple of Lord Krishna, following the rules and regulations of temple life, is understood to be residing on the transcendental platform. In these verses, the Lord clearly explains that all material phenomena may be divided into three divisions according to the modes of nature, and that ultimately there is the fourth or transcendental division, Krishna consciousness, which elevates all aspects of human culture to the liberated platform. And text 26 is Sattvika Karako Sange Ragandho Rajasa Smrita Tamasa Smriti Vibrashto Nirgono Mad Apashraya. A worker free of attachment is in the mode of goodness. A worker blinded by personal desire is in the mode of passion, and a worker who has completely forgotten how to tell right from wrong is in the mode of ignorance. But a worker who has taken shelter of me is understood to be transcendental to the modes of nature. Purport. A transcendental worker performs their activities in strict accordance with the directions of Lord Krishna and the Lord's bona fide representatives. Taking shelter of the Lord's guidance, such a worker remains transcendental to the modes of nature. Lord Prabhu, are you ready?
Yes, Prabhu.
Not yet. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
All right. So you can continue from text 27.
Sure. I will please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Text 27. Sattvikyadaya Maki Shreda Karma Shreda tu Rajasi Tasmai Yadarmi Ya Shreda Matsevayam tu Nirguna. Translation. Faith directly towards spiritual life is in the mode of goodness. Faith rooted in fruitive activity is in the mode of passion. Faith residing in irreligious activities is in the mode of ignorance. But faith in my devotional service is purely transcendental. Text 28. Patyam Putam Anyastam Arhyam Satvikam Smritam Rajasam Chindriya Prishtam Tamasam Kriti Deshuchi. Translation. Food that is wholesome, pure, and obtained without difficulty is in the mode of goodness. Food that gives immediate pleasure to the senses is in the mode of passion. And food that is unclean and causes distress is in the mode of ignorance. Purport. Food in the mode of ignorance causes painful disease and ultimately premature death. Text 29. Sattvikam Sukam Amotam Vishayotam Tu Rajasam Tasmasam Moho Dinyototam Nigunam Mad Aprishya Apashrayam. Translation. Happiness derived from the self is in the mode of goodness. Happiness based on sense gratification is in the mode of passion. And happiness based on delusion and degradation is in the mode of ignorance. But that happiness found within me is transcendental. Text 30. Dravayam Desha Palam Kalo Jnanam Karma Cha Karaka Shreda Vasta Kritir Nishta Shreya Gunya Sarva Evahe. Translation. Therefore, material substance, place, result of activity, time, knowledge, work, the performer of work, faith, state of consciousness, species of life, and designation after death are all based on the three modes of material nature. Text 31. Sarve Guna Maya Bhava Purushavakta Dishtate Drishtam Shrutam Anodyatam Bodhya Va Purusharshaba. Translation. All best of human beings, all states of material being are related to the interaction of the enjoying soul and material nature. Whether seen, heard of, or only conceived within the mind, they are without exception constituted of the mode of nature. Text 32. Eta samstritya pumsho guna karma nirbandhana yenime nirjata shoya guna jivina chittaja bhakti yogina mam nishto mad bhavaya prabhadyate. Translation. O gentle Uddhava, all these different phases of conditioned life arise from work born in the mode of material nature. The living entity who conquers these modes, manifests from the mind, can dedicate himself to me by the process of devotional service and thus attain pure love for me. Translation. The words Mad Bhavaya Prapadyate indicates the attainment of love of God, or on the same state of existence as that of the Supreme Lord. Actual liberation is residence within the eternal kingdom of God, where life is full of bliss and knowledge. The conditioned soul falsely imagines himself to be the enjoyer of the modes of nature, and thus a particular type of material world is generated, the reaction of which binds the conditioned soul to repeated birth and death. This fruitless process can be counteracted by loving service to the Lord, as described here. Text 33. Tasma deham imam labdva jana jivana sambhavam guna samga vinirduya mam bhajato vichakshana. Translation. Therefore, having achieved this human form of life, which allows one to develop full knowledge, those who are intelligent should free themselves from all contamination of the modes of nature and engage exclusively in loving service to me.
All right. So you can hold that. Yeah. Okay. To Raghunandan, you can continue from text 34.
24.
34.
Horrible. Okay, text 34. Nishango mambajit vidvan apramato jitendriya rajastamas chabhichayet sadva samizvaya mune. Translation. A wise sage free from all material association and unbewildered should subdue his senses and worship me. He should conquer the moods of passion and ignorance by engaging himself only with things in the mood of good. Text 55. Sadvam chabhijayit yukto nairapikshena santadihi sampadyate guni mukto jivo jivam vihayaman. Translation. Then, being fixed in devotional service, the sage should also conquer the material moods of goodness by indifference towards the moods. Thus pacified within his mind, the spirit soul, freed from the mood of nature, gives up the very cause of his conditioned life and attain me. Purport. The word Nirapikshenya refers to complete detachment from the mood of material nature. By attachment to the loving service of the Lord, which is completely transcendental, one gives up one's interest in the mood of nature. Text 46. Jivo jiva vini mukto gunaischasaya sambhavi vaye maya iva brahmana puno nabahi nantarascharai. Translation. Freed from the subtle conditions of the mind and from the moods of nature, born of material consciousness, the living entity becomes completely satisfied by experiencing my transcendental form. He no longer searches for enjoyment in the external energy, nor does he contemplate or remember such enjoyment within himself. Purport. The human form of life is a rare opportunity for achieving spiritual liberation in Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna has elaborately described in this chapter the characteristics of the three moods of nature. and the transcendental situation of Krishna consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered us to take shelter of the holy names of Lord Krishna, by which process we can easily transcend the mood of nature and begin our real life of loving devotional service to Lord Krishna. Thus, in the purpose of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 11th canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Three Moods of Nature and Beyond. Text chapter 26, text 1. The Ila Gita. Text 126:1. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Malakshanam Imam Kayam Labdava Madhama Astita Anandam Paramatmanam Atmastam Samupati Mam. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, having achieved this human form of life, which offers one the opportunity to realize me, and being situated in my devotional service, one can achieve me, the reservoir of all pleasure and the supreme soul of all existence, reside of every living being. Purport. Because of bad association, even those who are spiritually liberated may fall down from self-realization. Within the material world, the action of woman is especially dangerous. And therefore, after the Aligar Gita is spoken to prevent such a fall down. One can be saved from sex attraction by association with saintly persons who awakens one's real spiritual intelligence. Therefore, Lord Krishna will speak to Uddhava the amazing songs of Purava, also known as the Ilagata. Text 2, 26:2. Guna Maya Jiva Yunya Vimukto Gyanam Nistaya Guneshu Maya Matrisu Drisyaman Tuta Rata Pina Pumam Vastu Begunai. Translation. A person fixed in transcendental knowledge is freed from conditioned life by giving up its false identification with the products of material modes of nature. Seeing this product as simply illusion, he avoids entanglements with the moods of nature, although constantly among them, because the moods of nature and their products are simply not real. He does not accept them. Purport. The three moods of nature becomes manifest as varieties of material bodies, places, families, countries, food, sports, war, peace, and so forth. In other words, everything we see within the material world is constituted of the mood of nature. A liberated soul, although existing within the ocean of material energy, sees everything as the property of the Lord and is thus not entangled. Although Maya tempts such a liberated soul to become a thief, to steal the property of the Lord for sense gratification, a Krishna conscious person does not bite the bit of Maya. He remains honest and pure in Krishna consciousness. In other words, he does not believe that anything within the universe can become his personal property for sense gratification, especially the illusory form of a woman. Text 3. Sangam na kuyat asatam shisnudara tripam kuvachit tasyas nungas tasmas adhi Pratati Andhanugandhavat. Translation: one should never associate with materialists those dedicated to gratifying their genitals and bellies. By following them, one falls into the deepest pit of darkness, just like a blind man who follows another blind man.
Okay, so you can hold there, and Lord Prabhu, you can continue from text 4.
Text 4. Aila samradimam gatam agyata prachacharava uvashi virahan moyam nivina shoka samyame. Translation: The following song was sung by the famous emperor Pururava, when deprived of his wife Urvasi, he was at first bewildered, but by controlling his lamentation, he began to feel detachment. Purport: This story is also narrated in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Alya, or Pururava, was a great king whose glories were vast. Now, being separated from Urvasi, he felt great bewilderment at first, but after meeting her briefly at Kurukshetra, he worshipped the demigods with the sacrificial fire given by him by Gandharvas, and received the privilege of entering the planet where she resides. Text 5. Twa manam vrayantam tam nagna una omata vanipa velapan anvajajaye gohore tishtate velak lava. Translation: When she was leaving him, even though he was naked, he ran after her just like a madman and called out in great distress, "Oh, my wife! Oh, terrible lady! Please stop." Purport: As his beloved wife was leaving him, the shocked king was crying out, "My dear wife, please think for a moment. Just stop. You terrible lady, can't you stop? Why don't you speak together for a while? Why don't we speak together for a while? Why are you killing me?" Thus lamenting, he followed her. Text 6. Kamam arpto nujosan kula kanvarsa yamini naveda yantir ni yantir uvasya akrita chetana. Translation: Although for many years Pururava had enjoyed sex pleasure in the evening hours, he still was not satisfied by such insignificant enjoyment. His mind was so attracted to Urvasi that he did not notice how the nights were coming and going. Purport: This verse refers to Pururava's materialistic experience with Urvasi. Text 7. Ala ila uvacha ahome moha vashtara kama kasmala chetasa dveya grihita kantasya mohu kanda ime smitaha. Translation: King Alya said, "Alas, just see the extent of my delusion. This goddess was embracing me and held my neck in her grip. My heart was so polluted by lust that I had no idea how my life was passing. Text 8. Naham Veda Vinaye Mukta Shreyo Vabeyo Dito Muya Mushito Varsa Poganam Bhakti Hini Gatni Uta. Translation. That lady cheated me so much that I did not even see the rising and setting of the sun. Alas, for so many years I passed my days in vain. Purport. Due to attachment to the goddess, King Pururava forgot his devotional service to the Supreme Lord and became more concerned with pleasing this beautiful young lady. Thus he little lamented, having wasted his valuable time. Those who are Krishna conscious utilize every moment in the Lord's loving service. Text 9. Ahome Atma Samoho Yenatma Yoshitam Kritaha Krida Mrigas Chakrivari Varti Naradeva Shikha Manai. Translation. Alas, although I am supposed to be a mighty emperor, the crown jewel of all kings on this earth, just see how my bewilderment has rendered me a toy animal in the hands of women. Purport. Since the king's body had become fully engaged in satisfying the superficial desires of women, his body was now like a toy animal in their hands.
All right, so you can hold that. All right, just reading from text 10. Sa parichanam atmanam hitva trinam yiveshvaram yantim striyam chanvagamam nagna unmata vadrudan. Although I was a powerful lord with great opulence, that woman gave me up as if I were no more than an insignificant blade of grass. And still, naked and without shame, I followed her, crying out to her like a madman. Text 11. Kutas tusyanubhavasyat teja ishatvameva va yonva gacham sriyam yantem karavat padatadita. Where am I so-called great influence, power, and sovereignty? Just like an ass being kicked in the face by a she-ass, I ran after that woman who had already given me up. In text 12. Kim vidyaya kim tapasa kim tyagena shrutena va kim vivikketena maunena stribhiryasya manohritam. What is the use of a big education or the practice of austerities and renunciation? And what is the use of studying religious scriptures, of living in solitude and silence, if after all that one's mind is stolen by a woman? All of the above mentioned processes are useless if one's heart and mind are stolen by an insignificant woman. One who hankers after a woman's association certainly spoils his spiritual progress. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that if one worships the example of the liberated gopis of Vrindavan who accepted Lord Sri Krishna as their paramour, one can free one's mental activities from the contamination of lust. In text 13, Swartasya kovidam dhimam Murkham panditamaninam yoham ishvaratam prapya sribhir gokara vajjita. To hell with me, I am such a fool that I did not even know what was good for me. Although I arrogantly thought I was highly intelligent, although I achieved the exalted position of a lord, I allowed myself to be conquered by women as if I were a bullock or a jackass. Purport. All of the fools of this world consider themselves very wise, even though intoxicated by sense gratification and maddened by their lust for women's association, they become just like bullocks or jackasses. By the mercy of a saintly spiritual master, this lusty propensity can gradually be removed, and one can understand the terrible, contemptible nature of material sense gratification. In this verse, King Pururava is coming to his senses in Krishna consciousness. So text 14. Sveto Varsha Pugan Me Urvasya Adarashavam Na Tripyati Atma Bhukamo Vanir Ahuti Viryatha. Even after I had served the so-called nectar of the lips of Urvasi for many years, my lusty desires kept rising again and again within my heart and were never satisfied, just like a fire that can never be extinguished by the oblations of ghee poured into its flames. Text 15. Pumschalya paritam chitam konvanyo mochitam prabhu atmarameshwaram rite bhagavantam madhuksajam. Who but the personality of Godhead, who lies beyond material perception and is Lord of self-satisfied sages, can possibly save my consciousness, which had been stolen by a prostitute? And text 16. Bodhitasyapi devyame shukta vakyena dhurmate manogato mahamoho na payati ajitatmana. Because I allowed my intelligence to become dull, and because I failed to control my senses, the great confusion in my mind did not go away, even though Urvasi herself gave me wise counsel with well-spoken words. Purport. As described in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the goddess Urvasi plainly told Pururava that he should never trust women or believe their promises. Despite this frank advice, he became fully attached and thus suffered great mental anguish. In 17, Kim itaya no praktam rajvava sarpachaitasa drashtu swarupa viduso yoham yad ajitendriya. How can I blame her for my trouble when I myself am ignorant of my real spiritual nature? I did not control my senses, and so I am like a person who mistakenly sees a harmless rope as a snake. When a person mistakes a rope for a snake, he becomes fearful and anxious. Such fear and anxiety are, of course, illusion, since the rope can never bite. Similarly, one who mistakenly thinks that the material illusory energy of the Lord exists for his personal sense gratification will certainly bring down on his head an avalanche of material illusory fear and anxiety. King Pururava frankly admits here that the young lady Urvasi is not to blame. After all, it was Pururava who had mistakenly considered her to be an object of his personal enjoyment, and therefore he suffered the reaction by the laws of nature. Pururava himself was the offender for trying to exploit the external form of Urvasi. Alright, so Raghunandan, you can continue from text 18.
Haribol, text 18. Kuvyam mali masakayu dugandhi adi atmaku sushi waguna sumanas nyadya di ajaso vidyaya krita. Translation. What is this polluted body? What is this polluted body anyway? Oh, filthy and full of bad odors. So filthy and full of bad odors. I was after fragrance and beauty of a woman. But what are those so-called attractive features? They are simply a false covering created by illusion. Purport. Purava now understands that although he was madly attracted to the fragrance-shaped body of Uvasi, that body was a sack of stool, gas, bile, mucus, hair, and other repugnant elements. In other words, Purava is now becoming sin. Text 20. Ritru kim swamnu brayaya no gune swagradrayo kim atmana kim shudam itiyu navasiyati tasmin kalivari mediye tu chahanisti visajati Ao subhadram sunasam susmitam cha mukham sviya. Translation. One can never decide whose property the body actually is. Does it belong to one's parents who have given him birth to it, to one's wife who gives pleasure, or to one's employer who orders the body around? It is the property of the funeral fire or the dogs and jackals who may ultimately devour it. It is the property of the undwelling soul who partakes in its happiness and distress, or does the body belong to intimate friends who encourage and help it? A man never definitely ascertains the property of the body. He becomes most attached to it. The material body is a polluted material form heading to a destination. At the face of a woman, he thinks, what a good-looking lady with a charming nose she's got, and see her beautiful smiles. Purport. The phase to Charnishti, or head towards a lowly destination, indicates that if buried, the body will be consumed by worms. If burnt, it will turn to ashes, and if dying in a lonely place, it will be consumed by dogs and vultures. The illusory potency of Maya enters within the female form and bewilds a man's mind. The man is attracted to Maya appearing within the female form, but when he embraces the woman's body, he ends up with 2 handfuls of stool, blood, mucus, pus, skin, bone, hairs, and flesh. People should not be like cats and dogs in the ignorance of bodily consciousness. A human being should be enlightened in Krishna consciousness and learn to serve the Supreme Lord without falsely trying to exploit his potential. Text 21. Uvan namsarudiras nayu Vido majasti samhatu Vinmutra viramatam Kaminam kiyat at antadram. Translation. What difference is there between ordinary worms and persons who try to enjoy this material body, composed of skin, flesh, blood, muscles, fat, marrows, bones, stool, urine, and pus?
All right. So you can hold that. And Lord Prabhu, you can finish us up for tonight.
Text 22. Tapi no pasha jijita Shri Sus Triraini Shu Chartave Vishayendriya Samyogan Mana Kushvat Ushyate Manyata Nanyata. Translation. Yet, even one who theoretically understands the actual nature of the body should never associate with women or with men attached to women. After all, the contact of the senses with their objects inevitably agitates the mind. Text 23. Arshtitad arustad bhavan na bhava upajayate asampreyunjata pranan samyate stimitam mana. Translation. Because the mind is not disturbed by that which is neither seen or heard, the mind of a person who restricts the material senses will automatically be checked in its material activities and become pacified. Purport. It may be argued that even while closing one's eyes, while dreaming or while living in a solitary place, one will remember or contemplate sense gratification. Such an experience, however, is due to previous sense gratification that one repeatedly saw or heard about. When one restricts the senses from their objects, especially from intimate contact with women, the mind's material propensity will slacken and, like a fire without fuel, eventually die. Text 24. Tasmat sango na kartavya Shrivishu Shryanishu Chindriyai Vidusam Chapya Vishrabaha Sadvarga Kim Umadrisham. Translation. Therefore, one should never let his senses associate freely with women or with men attached to women. Even those who are highly learned cannot trust the 6 enemies of the mind. What to speak then of foolish persons like me? Text 25. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Evam Pragayam Nipa Deva Deva Sa Uvisha Lokam Ato Vihaya Atmanam Atmayava Kamyamam Vai Uparamajanana Viduta Moha. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, having thus chanted this song, Maharaj Purava, eminent among the demigods and human beings, gave up the position he had achieved in the planet of Urvasi. His illusion cleansed, away by transcendental knowledge, he understood me to be the Supreme Soul within his heart, and so at last achieved peace. Text 26. Tato Sanga Ushrijya Satso Sajita Buddhimam Santa Evasya Chinjandanti Mano via Sangam Utabi. Transition. An intelligent person should therefore reject all bad association and instead take up the association of saintly devotees, whose words cut off the excessive attachment of one's mind. Text 27. Santo na piksha mu machita prashanta samadashina nirmana nirahankara nidvandva nishparigraha. Transition. My devotees fix their minds on me and do not depend upon anything material. They are always peaceful, endowed with equal vision, and free from possessiveness, false ego, duality, and greed. Text 28. Teshu nityam mahabhaga mahabhageshu madkataha sambhavanti hita nirnam chushtatam prapunantya agam. Translation. O greatly fortunate Uddhava, in the association of such saintly devotees, there is constant discussion of me, and those partaking in this chanting, when hearing of my glories, are certainly purified of all sins. Purport. Even if one does not receive direct instructions from a pure devotee, simply by hearing him glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be purified of all sinful reactions caused by one's involvement in illusion.
All right, so we can stop here tonight. Text 28 and 21. Yes. So we're stopping at text 28. We'll continue with text 29 in the following reading. 26, 28. All right, so here we are seeing in the latter part of the reading the Ila Gita, which explains the situation of Pururava with Urvasi. And said we read that already in the ninth canto, and I don't remember exactly, but I think she told him that on certain conditions, if he did that, then she would have to leave, which is exactly what happened. But he became so attached to her that he couldn't realize the time is passing by. It's like what we read about someone looking at the lamp and only seeing one flicker of the flame and saying that's the light. But there's so many other flickers that come before and go after that. So we don't see all of that, we just see the present. And so in that situation, he did not realize even the passing of time. And this is what happens with most people in the human form of life. They don't realize the passing of time, and when they don't realize it, at a certain point in time, death is knocking at their doorstep, and they're thinking, well, what should I be doing now? Which is something that one should be thinking about earlier on, because one is aware of that human form of life, or all forms of life, go through birth, disease, old age, and death. So this is what happened for Pururava, and the purpose of the Ila Gita is to help one to become free from the attachment to sex life. So Pururava is saying, how can I blame her for my trouble when I myself am ignorant of my real spiritual nature? I did not control my senses, and so I'm like a person who mistakenly sees a harmless rope as a snake. So it says that even one who theoretically understands the actual nature of the body should also never associate with women or with men attached to women, because all they do is talk about women. After all, the contact of the senses with the object inevitably agitates the mind. So this is what happens. Even one of the senses can take away the mind of a man who is endeavoring to control them. So just one of the senses will do it. So we have to be very careful whom we associate with and how we take the association of everyone. And we find that in some cases we associate with people and they're very materialistic, but we should give them our association, our association as devotees, not so much so that we preach to them openly, but we manifest the qualities of a devotee, and in that way they are able to develop some respect for such a situation. They will not think on a lower level. It says an intelligent person should therefore reject all bad association and instead take up the association of saintly devotees whose words cut off the excessive attachment of one's mind. And then Krishna said, my devotees fix their mind on me, do not depend on anything material, they are always peaceful, endowed with equal vision, and free from possessiveness, false ego, duality, and greed. So that's the situation of one who wants to control their mind and senses and become free from sex life. The previous chapter says it should be understood that alert wakefulness comes from the mode of goodness, sleep with dreaming from the mode of passion, and deep dreamless sleep from the mode of ignorance. And then there's that fourth state of consciousness, which pervades these three and is transcendental. So Bhagavad Gita says that one should rise above the modes of material nature and come to the platform of devotional service. So then it mentioned a little more that those who leave this world in the mode of goodness go to the heavenly planets. Those who pass away in the mode of passion remain in the world of human beings, and those dying in the mode of ignorance must go to hell. But those who are free from the influence of all modes of nature come to me. So again, these are the distinctions. And then free from the subtle conditioning of the mind and from the modes of nature born of material consciousness, the living entity becomes completely satisfied by experiencing my transcendental form. He no longer searches for enjoyment in the external energy, nor does he contemplate or remember such enjoyment within himself. So, that searching for enjoyment in the material world or reminiscing about the enjoyments we had in this world is about the same. So one should fix the mind upon the Supreme Lord and as much as possible try to experience his transcendental form and the association with him. So we can stop here tonight. If there are any questions, comments, or realizations, we can have those now. Alright, so we can stop here and then Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Garupremanand